Good morning, everybody. It's Paul Clegg. We're once again on the Somerset Marketing Hub Online meeting, and we've got probably one of the most important subjects that we can cover today. And it's a very fundamental part of marketing, and yet when I talk to people, sometimes it's easily missed because it's assumed that you have people to talk to about your business. I always say that my role is to help you get in front of more people who want to buy your stuff so that you can stop chasing people who don't. And so I'm going to share a screen at the moment that will actually help us take this through. And it refers to an audience. As you've heard me say in the past, I've talked about the first thing you need to do is to get attention. Undivided attention. The next stage is very important. It's producing some sort of engagement so that you build a relationship based on trust and expertise. And then, of course, there's the sale itself, and then there's the afters. But if we back up a little bit, before we can get in front of somebody, before we can get somebody's attention, we need to know who we want to get in front of. In other words, we need an audience. Your audience is key, but who do you want to get in front of? And how are you going to get in front of them? So I want you to think about that for yourselves for the moment. Who is the audience most likely to be a potential customer? What are their needs? What do they look like? Some people talk about avatars, they talk about demographics. Who do you really want to be in front of? Because if you've got an audience of, or a reach of 50 people in your database, or you only see 50 people a week, or you only connect, or you only get your message in front of 50 people, you've got a chance if it's the right audience of getting business, but it's nowhere near as much of a chance as if you had 300 people to get in front of, or 3,000. So I think this audiences have always been key. When you buy an advert in a newspaper, whether it's the Wells Voice or the Wells Journal, you're getting access to their audience. They've got an audience, their circulation of people that buy that newspaper, and they've acquired that audience through a lot of hard work, and they're offering you the chance to share that audience. But you've got to pay for it. And there's nothing wrong with that. The only thing is, it's not quite as segmented nowadays as we'd like. In other words, it's a big audience. How much of that audience is relevant to your marketplace? And that will help you choose where you want to get in front of. Now, you can say, I don't want to pay for any advertising at all, and that's absolutely fine. But you're going to have to find other ways of creating an audience and a following and getting in front of those people. And that will cost you money because it will cost you time. It'll cost you a lot of time. And during that time, as Mark would attest to, you're going to be leaking money. You know, your cash flow, if you're going to take 6 months before you get a client, then all those 6 months you've got to fund. And I think a lot of people that start out in business don't fully appreciate that. A good accountant will help them understand where's your revenue coming from month 1, month 2, month 5, month 6. And you've got to think of that. But that's the sort of area that everybody that's starting a business or growing a business needs. Got fixed cost. You need to get in front of audiences. And I'm going to talk about those different audiences now. Now, I'm going to talk about an audience also as traffic. So traffic is a term that we use from a digital marketing point of view. It's foot traffic. I suppose it was born out of the fact that a retailer in the high street in Wells, they maybe don't think they need to advertise. They don't think they need to go digital because what they've got is foot traffic passing by. And if the wares in the window attract the attention, some of that traffic will come into them. And if that's the only way they're getting foot traffic, that's why they've got challenges during and after COVID for a lot of good reasons. So whatever the traffic is a way in which gets your audience in front of you. You get in front of an audience. And there's 3 types of traffic, and I'd like to go through those 3 types of traffic, which will help you think about how you're getting traffic. By the way, if you're not digital, it could be, what is your network? Who are the people that know what you do? So, you know, there's 2 types, is on and offline traffic. So you wouldn't call your networking contacts, but if I think about my networking contacts over 15 years in Somerset, 20 years actually, overall, 15 years living in Somerset, then it's quite extensive. And you've got an extensive network or reach. So whether you call it reach or traffic, it doesn't really matter. There's traffic you control. I'm going to cover what that means, but it's very important that you've got control of your traffic, because if you've got a riveting, a compelling message, and it presupposes you've got a message that helps you stand out from your competitors, it's a compelling message that creates curiosity and gets people leaning forward so they want to know more. Then if you can control that traffic and regularly put that traffic in front of that message, then you've got a business system that will keep generating leads and business all day long. The second is the traffic you earn, and I'm going to cover why I've used the word earn in a moment. And the third is the traffic you own, and that is ultimately what we want to get to. So let me talk about that further. Traffic you control. They're the contacts, first of all, you have a relationship with, that you've got detail of, and that you stay in touch with. And I've come across a lot of people in business at networking events, and I know for a fact they have no system whatsoever for holding on to that data, and they certainly don't stay in touch. And that is probably half of the problem. And I know why. If everybody else, I think Elaine also, if you could just turn your microphone off. I should have asked for that, and anybody else that's on.
Sorry.
That's all right. I know from talking with lots of people that what everybody tends to do, and it's not just people that go to networking events, it's people in stores, it's people that are reaching out to do business, it's telemarketing people, and it's classic. You get a phone call from somebody who wants to talk to you about a subscription or a sale or whatever, and that's the last thing you ever hear of them. People that want to do direct marketing or telemarketing, they go and spend good money, and they go and ring as many people as possible once. You never hear from them again. It's crazy. If you had £1,000 and you could reach 1,000 people once, you'd be far better off really segmenting the key people, the key audience, maybe the 100 key audience, and contact them 10 times, because of the principle that 82% of sales take place after the 7th touch. That is a far better strategy. So I want you to think about the contacts you've ever had and where you keep their details and how you continue to make contact with them, particularly those that are relevant to your audience. It's also traffic from social media, traffic you control, and that means the people you've reached out to on LinkedIn, the people who've reached out on Facebook or YouTube or whatever, Instagram or whatever social media channel that you're on. Traffic you control is best paid for. Is paid for. So, for instance, you can. What I mean by this is that you can, apart from the contacts, right now, even with contacts, you can actually you pay in time or money to go to networking events. And therefore, you've immediately got people in front of you. You can decide which of those who have access to the people you want, but you've paid for that in some way of time time or money. The traffic from social media, you can control the people that get in front of your message today. Because Facebook, for example, and no doubt all of the other social media channels, have got tremendous data on their audience. And just like a newspaper, they're willing to share that audience, very much segmented better than a newspaper. That's why newspapers are struggling like mad, and they will continue to do so. But they will give you access to that audience today if you know what audience you want and you're willing to pay for it. No problem. You see, you may think that every time you post something on Facebook that every one of your friends see it. They don't. It's really throttled back with their algorithms because Facebook want you to pay for access to that audience. So if Rod, for instance, wants access to 55 to 72-year-olds or 75-year-olds who are living on their own, or there's some reference to a care home, Kelly would be one to talk further about the demographics and the niches. Facebook knows everything about you, so you can pin into that, and the skill, of course, is getting that audience. But once you've got that audience and you're willing to pay for that audience, you can be putting your message in every single day. And that's why Facebook do so much business, because businesses that have realized the art of dealing with digital marketing and the art of pay-per-click, and the same can be for Google as well. They've found that audience. They've been able to find that audience. They've got a compelling message, and they can put people in time after time after time after time. And once they've got that system in place that's delivering, so they know that the cost of acquiring a customer is X, and that the value of that customer long term, but even short term, is Y, then they will do it all day long. If you could put £10 into the Facebook machine and at the end of the day get £30 out, I think you'd be stuffing £10 notes into that machine as fast as you could, because it's a license to print money. Now, does everybody print money with Facebook and their advertising? Absolutely not, because they have a shot on their own. They don't turn to specialists, people that know what they're doing. They just have a go themselves. And that's where they make some big mistakes. You'll notice Google, for instance, will give you access to their database, and they'll even give you a voucher. I think you've got to match that voucher. But if you know what you're doing, you can get really good results. I mean, we know, and we've had discussions with Rod, he's started a new branch of his business. He's not gone any market anywhere. He's used some Google pay-per-click. He's had the stats back, and maybe he'll share that later. He knows exactly how much he's spent. He knows how many people have reached, how many people have gone onto his website, and he also knows how much business he's had. That is a gift to all of us. So that's traffic you control. I want to cover now traffic you earn. And traffic you earn is traffic you attract. Now, it could be traffic we've attracted on a meeting like this. It could be traffic you've attracted, and by traffic I mean eyeballs, audience, that you've attracted on your 4N or your BNI. And I think that's why people go networking. It could be traffic you've attracted, people where you've been walking around the marketplace and somebody's made an inquiry, or you started to talk about something, and you take that details and you get back in touch with them. That's traffic you've earned because of who you are. But there's other ways to attract traffic. You can attract traffic by how you appear and how you create and establish your reputation. For many people, it could be, if they like writing, it's blogging and articles, but not articles that sort of sell your stuff. That's selling, and that's a bit spammy. It's actually giving good value, as we've discussed on previous meetings. And by the way, Mark, I want to compliment you for your recent post, because you're now using really good graphics that grab the attention and add sort of color and expertise. Good. So blogs are articles. And by the way, I've said articles because they could be articles in newspapers. If newspapers are struggling, then they want to reach a new audience, particularly advertisers. So maybe you can approach local newspapers or specialist magazines with the offer to write articles. to write a regular article or the occasional article. And that's why people will submit articles both to online and offline sources. I've tended to attract a lot of traffic through using videos, not only my videos, but sharing some of these videos because they contain valuable content. So traffic you earn is where you build a reputation online or offline. Your reputation is how people perceive you, how they perceive you as an expertise from an expertise point of view. And traffic you earn could also be offline in terms of, and online in terms of interviews. Now, I found that a very good source. And I know somebody right now wants to interview me. I'm in a really good position when I say, look, I can't do it right now. And he keeps coming to me. So I'm building a bit of exclusivity, if you like. So, but interviews can be very good, and podcasts. And one of the ways in which you might want to think about is actually, if you want to reach out an audience and somebody's doing regular podcasts or they're doing regular interviews or they're writing about the subject you've got an expertise about, maybe you approach that person, ask them whether you've got something really interesting, a really different angle, a hook, a really different angle that you'd like to contribute with their audience. That could give you a really big audience then, and it can help build yours. Now, the traffic you earn, although it will take time, is, oh, and by the way, I should have added, and I'm glad I've got these notes, is even before digital, I've always attracted an audience by speaking at workshops, speaking at events. And I think that's why the networking events that allow the people there to have highlighted spots, that is really important because you can really show off your expertise and attract new fans, new people, where your reputation goes up in their view. And workshops are very, very valuable. Whether there's people on here, there's everybody here could be doing workshops online, that's for sure. Not quite as easy offline at the moment, but I always used to let people know that if ever they needed a speaker about a particular subject, and by the way, if those people had an audience that was good for me, then I'd be delighted to go and speak because I knew I was then getting in with a different audience. One of my strategies when I'm interviewing people, and I'm talking particularly about interviewing people I want to access their contacts or their audience, is if you know people who've got a big audience, actually developing the skill of interviewing and offering to interview them can be a really good strategy to get in front of their audience. You see where I'm coming from? So traffic you earn, an audience that this is traffic you earn, and this tends to be free. Now, all of those things are very fine, but you've got to have, the goal is to get to the third traffic, and that's the traffic you own. Right now, anything you've got on LinkedIn or Facebook, those platforms or Instagram, they own that traffic, just like the newspaper owns its audience. If Facebook decided to ban you, or you would no longer had access to that, you lose your entire traffic. So it's very important that you get to own the traffic. And I've already covered doing that with blogs, articles, videos and content, interviews, workshops, business cards. You own that traffic. If you've met, and I've covered it at the last couple of meetings, if you've collected business cards at events, whether it was the Lions business event earlier this year or the networking events that you go to, you own that business card. They've given it you. You own their contact details. But if you never contact them or you don't do it above once, can you see how you've got traffic in your hands? You've got the opportunity to open an unbelievable number of doors if you know how to develop that relationship, and you've got to get it into some digital format. And I don't mean Outlook, and I don't mean an Excel spreadsheet. You've got to get it in some sort of CRM system. Now, whether that's HubSpot, whether that's ActiveCampaign, Aweber, it doesn't really matter. And I can give you some pointers as to the sort of how to start. But you've got to get it into some sort of system that will allow you to spend some time reaching out to those people and staying in touch with them. period. And by the way, one of the things that you want to do if you're connecting with people on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn's easy because you can export all that data into your system. And I would certainly do it. And we might need to talk a bit further as to what strategy you would use, but nevertheless, you only own what you've got on your computer. It's all very well having a drawer full of business cards, but if that's all they are, it's a waste of time collecting them. So traffic you own is important, and it's yours, but it's only yours if you use it and you reach out and you build relationship. People, at some point, the object of having a business is to sell that business. And some people have got a business that's supporting their lifestyle, and when it comes to the point where they can no longer do it, or they've got enough pension and they walk away from it, then that's fine. And that's okay as well, providing you've got enough of a pension and you can afford to walk away. But a lot of people who have businesses, the general idea of that is to build it to a point where it's of value to somebody that you can sell. Well, I've got to tell you, people don't buy your company. They buy your list and the relationship you have with it. And it's also known as goodwill. How many times do you see the big companies, for instance, I think Facebook paid over $1 billion. I can't remember. I should have researched the figure. I can't remember the figure for Instagram. Sometimes they buy it to shut it down, but generally they buy it for their audience. Spotify have just bought access to the Jogan? I want to say Jogan Rosh, but that's an Indian. That's an Indian dish, isn't it? Joe Rogan. That's it. Joe Rogan's podcast. Joe Rogan is probably one of the biggest podcasters out there. They've just the deal is worth about $1 million. Is it $1 million? Was it 10 million? No, it's not $1 million. Yeah, I think it's £1 million to Joe. And it could be 10 million. I'll look that up. It's worth an immense amount of money. And you think, well, why are they doing that? Well, Spotify realized that they're in the business of ears. In other words, they've been delivering music, but they want that audio attention. And so they're going to be moving into podcasts. And they've bought his audience because Joe will actually move all of his audience onto Spotify. So if you want to listen to Joe, you'll have to get onto the Spotify system. So can you see why audiences are that important, especially if you wanted to grow and then sell a business? If everything collapsed tomorrow and you had to start all over again, what would you reach out to? Would you start to rebuild and all that expense, etc., or would you have an audience you can reach out to?
I found that really. I've never heard it put that way, but from my angle, it makes complete sense in the way that you've described the three different areas.
I'll be honest, a lot of what I've said is what I know, but in actually providing a structure for today, I've got that from a recent challenge that I've been on, and so but I've always known the importance of an audience. And when we look at the bit about the newspapers is quite interesting, because they, the TV, when TV advertising started, TV had an audience. So they say, look, we're happy to put your product or service in front of that audience. We'll sell it to you in 30-second slots, and the price is this. Simple, really. So one of the questions we ought to be thinking about is who has the audience we want to get in front of. So that's a starter. I'm going to talk. You can talk separately about what audience you already have. But if you want to put an audience, let's say I've got an organic linen, a bed linen for a cat, and it's organic. I want to sell this thing because apart from it being completely natural, made of jute or made of linen, pure cotton, so it's going to be great for cats that have allergies. It's going to be great for the environment. I can rewash it, so I don't have to have a cat litter or whatever. Or no, it can be a cat bed. You can tell I'm not a cat owner. Now, I can either go out and sell that to everybody on in a news. I can go and put a newspaper advert out in the Wells Journal, and out of the 10,000 people that may read that or receive it, how many cat lovers will they be? I don't know. And if I get some phone calls, I've got to ask them where did they see my advert to know whether that advert paid off. You can do that. But wouldn't it be a lot easier if I found people on social media, for instance, that had a big audience of cat lovers? And the beauty is on things like LinkedIn and Facebook, etc. And I don't do a lot on Instagram, so probably the same there. You will find that there are clusters of communities of people that pull together. They've got a similar interest. And I'll bet there's a load of cat communities on those social medias.
I think there was a statistic that said that more pet charities get money when people die than children's charities. Can you believe that?
Well, yes.
Yeah.
I used to be.
People hate children.
I used to be head of fundraising for a charity, and the richest charity in the UK surprised me at the time, and I think it probably still is. It's actually a charity called The Brook,
Really?
which is donkey sanctuary.
I was just about to say, it's
what,
a donkey
sorry?
sanctuary, yeah.
The Brook. It's called The Brook. It's a donkey sanctuary. It was. Their problem was they had so much money in cash that actually they were breaking the charity rules at the time for exactly that reason.
So we got this linen cat bed. It's really natural. The easiest way to get your audience fast is to get in front of cat audiences. Now you can do that via Google. You can certainly pay for that. You can do that in terms of putting ads in front of groups of people on social media that have got cats. Can you see how that would be relatively simple? If you've got a good hook and it's good value, you've got a good story behind this, then that would be brilliant. But you don't have to pay for it. In other words, you can do it just as smart. It might take you a little bit longer, but not necessarily. You can find those groups on Facebook, on LinkedIn, whereby they've got cats appreciation societies. And by the way, I'm sure they've got donkeys as well. I bet one or two. So shouldn't have said that. They might be watching the replay. Now, okay, would you then go into that group and say, hey, folks, you don't know me, you don't know my reputation, but I got something I want to sell you? You wouldn't do that. What would you do?
Join the group and start building relationships.
Right, you join the group, and what I would do is I would watch what the style of the group, what are people posting?
Get a cat first.
I was going to say,
Get a cat first.
Yeah. Yes. I might pretend to be a cat snatcher, or or I'm thinking of buying a Persian. Is there anything I should know? You know, we could all
like linen bed.
What?
I'm thinking of buying a cat. What ones really like linen beds?
But in other words, you would develop a strategy. But and I think what we've seen on things like LinkedIn and Facebook, especially, is that people want to be your friend, and then they're in your face with whatever. Can you see where that happens? So definitely one of the things that everybody could be doing, and you've got to know what your potential audience is finding groups, communities that represent your target audience, and then getting to know that target audience. And one of the ways, and I'll come to you, Ewan, is one of the ways I found useful is where somebody's posted something of interest, and you do need to spend a bit of time on it. It's an investment, but where people have posted something of interest, I very often will share that, because that is really just the other person is really going to be impressed with that share, but they're going to be more impressed if you also make a comment. Because like in any group that you meet, whether it's at a party or whether it's a networking group, although the average person focuses on them, as I've said previously, you should be focusing on the other person, and everybody else has got egos. Everybody else is trying hard. They've all got the same challenges we've all got. And so to encourage people and to take an interest, if you do it verbally at a meeting, then it shouldn't be too tough to do it at a group. Ewan, you had a point.
Well, I was going to build on your point, actually, the question you asked about if you were in the group. The thing, like anything, is to show value. So one thing you could do if you're selling, you know, if your ultimate aim is you're selling linen beds, is to then start sharing articles kind of related that are not, you know, so cats and allergies and how you can help your cat if they've got an allergy without actually selling your product, but starting to build value within that group, that you know what you're talking about within that subject area. Bearing in mind your ultimate goal at the end of the day is to relate that back to the product that you're selling, but you build that link between you, the subject area, and then ultimately the product that you want to sell.
It's picking up on that point, Ewan, and you're absolutely right. What we've got to be careful of is if you then are manipulating, you know, lots of articles about sleep, cats, etc., and then you push your product in. Of course, you can do that, but I think it's probably more. I think most of the activity is done after a meeting. So if you're in a situation where you're in this group discussion, you're right to follow what you've just done, but then to say, look, you know, I've just discovered, or I've just launched, or whatever, I'm looking to launch a particular product that could actually sort these, you know, these allergies. I found that in some tests that I've done that we're solving the cat's sleeping problems or whatever. Or this is when you may offer a free report on something and you give them a link. And by the way, when you're doing blogs, for instance, a lot of people go along and building their audience through blogs. They'll do blogs till the heart's content, and I've done years of that. But unless there's a call to action from that blog that leads them to something that gets them into your funnel or your database, then you're almost wasting.
My cat's purring. How do I get it to purr?
Rod's still stuck on cats. You watch, he's gonna launch a pet cemetery any day now.
Big business.
Lots of money in it, Rod.
Yeah. As we discussed. So if you're doing a lot of blogging, if blogging is your way of reputation and building your audience, we need to make sure you've got something that takes them, those that are interested, that want to find out more, takes them, there's some sort of call to action on there. So you've got to reverse engineer it. You've got to say, what is it, you know, what is it, how do I want to get them off this particular, into my own, into data that I own. Any other questions on that? Because what I want to do is I want to give us, I'm going to help somebody now. I'm going to share again. Kevin messaged me yesterday saying that, and I'll read it to you. Good to see you looking so well. Smart haircut, thank you. 3 weeks in and we've exceeded. Let me just sort of get rid of this at the moment. I'll only read some of it. 3 weeks in and he's got the hairdressing salon in the north of England in Oldham. 3 weeks in and we've exceeded record figures. Early starts, late finish, hence my absence. Prior to opening, I personally contacted my 100 clients. So he reached out to those to ensure their appointment. Secondly, I texted all cancelled appointments through lockdown. And thirdly, texted all clients from the 1st of November to lockdown. So he's got two databases. He's got clients that he's able to ring. He's got their phone number. And he's also got text. He's clearly got their text message. And text could be a good way of reaching out to people. This filled my first 3 weeks. I have many clients waiting till August, clients shielding and a few nervous. So I have bookings for the second wave. However, I still have 1,000 to 1,200 people on my database who have not been contacted. And I guess a lot of us have got people, me included, I've got people on our database that I haven't contacted in a long time. You've also got business cards, as Barry had last week, and he would do well to get those scanned into some sort of software, which he could do at a very little, no cost at all. Just somebody scanning them, say into HubSpot or whatever. So I still have 1,000 to 1,200 people on my database who have not been contacted. These will be a mix of those waiting once or twice a year, uni students, transient, lost, deceased, moved out of the area. In other words, he doesn't know the quality of that list. That's some of the challenges you have when you buy a list. But at least he's got this list. And his question was, that's smart, isn't it? My question is, what do I put in a text or email to entice these clients to book? Don't particularly want to put an offer out there because I expect those waiting to book anyway. So that was the question that Kevin had. So I promised to actually include this on today's session and see. I've got some thoughts myself, but see if anybody. Let's focus on Kevin's issue here. Or focus. This could help you focus on your issue. You've got people on your database that you haven't contacted, people in Outlook, business cards. Barry's got. How, what could we do? How could we reach out to those people in a natural way? Come on, we're supposed to be a creative marketing team here.
Well, because of the challenges that he's put at the end, I would think, and he doesn't want to have an offer, just simply contacting him to say that we're open and explain how he is doing business in a safe way and how people can simply book and explaining how much he cherishes their business would be a simple way to contact. But I think it would be important to A, say he's open, B, explain how he's doing business safely, and C, say that he values their business and looks forward to hopefully seeing them in the future.
Okay. Anybody else?
I would go with lose the lockdown locks as an opener.
Sorry again, Kelly?
I would think
lose your lockdown locks as your subject matter. And some mad mullet pick.
I would think there would be some sort of repetition. So with a hairdresser, when a woman or a bloke goes into the hairdressing shop, they normally say, "Oh, I'll see you in 4 weeks," or "I'll see you in 3 weeks," or whatever it might be. And so the hairdresser will have a little bit of background about they always come in on a Thursday afternoon or a Wednesday morning or whatever like that. And he could take he could be proactive and take the assumptive close. And so just assume that they're going to come in on a Wednesday or a Thursday or whatever it is, and ask them if they'd like to book in, because obviously after the pandemic, it's been very busy.
I think that, hairdressers are in a perfect position, just like motor mechanics are and beauty therapists, because there's certain services we have on a regular basis. They should be able to predict. So for instance, somebody has a color, they know they're going to be back in 6 weeks because that's the length of time it takes for the roots to grow. If they have a perm, it could be 12 weeks, or if it's a haircut, it might be 4 to 6 weeks, and so there could be reminders. In fact, many of the regular customers will be booking their next appointment anyway. I think going out and assuming something from people you've not been in contact for ages, be on the receiving end of that could be, salt in the wound. Yes, Kelly.
So what data does he know about those 1,000 to 1,200 people? Does he have any information like, these are my uni students, or are they literally just a list he bought? Like Rod said, they come in on Wednesdays, I'll send them a message the week before or something with a, or is it?
I don't know. The fact, he may have them segmented. It's very important if you've got a list to segment people in whatever is relevant, whatever way is relevant. But I think he may even be guessing that he knows from the nature of his clients that some people are uni students, etc. Anybody, any other points?
What about sending a video message?
A video message could be very good.
Oh no, he hasn't got any hair, has he? Thinking about it. Christ, we got nowhere.
Hey, listen, I did promise to send him this. You know, if you choose to use your testosterone growing hair, that's okay.
Yeah.
Again, this is where good copy comes in, the ability to communicate. If I was looking at this and helping Kevin, my first thought would be, first of all, you've not stayed in touch. Period.
Yeah.
And therefore, an apology is due. So you may have a headline that says, "I really messed up, and I'm sorry." That would get an email. You know, you might have their name, John. I really messed up, and I'm really sorry. And then it's your first paragraph, and your next paragraphs need some careful thinking about. But we shouldn't be afraid of saying, "Hey, I messed up. I got it wrong. I apologize." People will warm to people who are willing to apologize. We all do. So you could say, "Hey, I messed up. I'm really sorry." For somebody that prides themselves on the relationship they have with their regular clients, I really can't forgive myself because I failed to stay in touch. I failed to keep in touch with you. And right now, I hope you'll accept my apology. You see, here at Carey's salon, we've had to face, like you, a number of challenges. And some of those challenges involve helping people look good, blah, 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 blah. And we've all had difficulty during this COVID. So if right now you're thinking about, you know, looking on the bright side, enjoying, I don't know, I'm losing it a little bit here because I've made the rest of it up. But, you know, you can then move into what you've done, as Kelly and Ewan have said, about the precautions you've made. And we'd love to see you back. And so we'd love to see you back. And this is an invitation for you to do so. Now, I know that he doesn't want to offer a deal, but it would be a lot easier to say, to make up for it, what I'd like to do is, if you come back, then the coffees are on us, or, you know, we're happy to do your hair for half a price or whatever. Now that will be based, and I know Kevin's always pretty busy under normal times. It'll also be based on whether he's got the capacity to do that. But a lot of people reaching out, that could be a very good incentive, because you're not giving that to everybody. You're only going to give it to the new customers. It's like the cost of acquiring a new customer, because somebody you haven't dealt with for a year or more actually ends up being a new customer. Ewan, and then Zoisa, and then Elaine. Ewan.
Yeah, I think also, because of the nature of what you're doing, what would be a good idea within that is to offer some sort of feedback, to say, if you have any questions or concerns, contact me personally and let me talk you through what we're doing, because it is a very difficult thing. And as you say, you've probably got a lot of people who just simply don't, they're afraid. And so you have to get over that. I think it would be more powerful to have some sort of offer. The offer doesn't have to be financially huge, but he said in his thing he doesn't want to. But if you could have some sort of, even if it's just, as you say, the coffees are on me, or it's something very small, just to help tip those people over that edge, then that is always a good thing. But I think very important to have a feedback loop to address anyone's concerns, or even if very basic. If you've got any concerns, check out our FAQs on the website. If you're talking about digital feedback, and then have some FAQs about the COVID response that you're taking.
I know in previous conversations with Kevin, he's talked about his sister that has got quite a big audience in the beauty Instagram market. There could be a particular product she's about to launch, or he's just brought in. So he could say, and we've got this exciting new product we'd love to share with you. And if you do come in for a treatment, I'm going to give you a sample of that, or you know, you can have the offer on that. So in other words, you're getting the purchase. You know, so it needs thinking about. Zoisa.
Yeah, I guess one of the things that that I was thinking about is that it has been a long time that we've been in lockdown. So I just realised my power's running low. So yeah, so a lot of people will have had, you know, their hair will have grown quite a lot during this time. So if I'm remembering it correctly, I think if you're just going for like just a cut, it's like one price. But if you're going for a restyle or having a new style, it's usually a little bit more expensive. So one of the things that they could do is just say, you know, maybe, you know, your hair's a bit longer, you want to try a different style, because you can. So it gives them the opportunity to try something new. It doesn't necessarily mean to say that they have to go back to how it was. So, you know, that would be.
I think in the copy, giving ideas about one of the you know, we've all been locked down. One of the advantages is the hair is long and you can do more in terms of restyle. So certainly that, but I think the key thing to remember of that is to get them back in contact. I think the fact that he reaches out in that way, even with an average, even with average copy, the fact that you've reached out would get some response. But if you get some really good copy, really good compelling with the right approach, that would be he'd get some results on that. I'm absolutely sure. It's certainly something you could measure.
And also,
Elaine,
I would say images, because if people are having their hair cut, most people are visual, so it's like they either have seen the hair cut or style in one place or another place. So actually to have images of kind of pre-lockdown hair or like post, you know, I've come to lockdown, here's a before, this is my style before lockdown, this is my style at the end of lockdown, and this is my new style. So almost
that's quite an enticement. Suddenly I think, oh, I could have a new look, etc. Yeah, Kevin was very creative, you know, has been, and his team are very creative. So you could certainly have a link. You know, during lockdown, we've been working on new styles for hair that is now become longer, and these are some of the results. And so you have a link to their website, which is something that was mentioned. I'm going to come to you in a second, Kelly. Elaine, you had a point. Thank you, Zoe. Sir.
I was just wondering whether using a booking app, they could open up easily online slots that are the dead slots that nobody wants, and say, you know, in the email or text or whatever, book your personalized appointment easily, go on here for the latest slots that are available, and perhaps if they wanted to, you know, offer them at a slightly discounted price to fill them. So I don't know, a bit cheaper or an add-on, so that they're filling the dead slots in the day.
I think again, it isn't about the creative marketing. The whole subject is about reaching back out to the audience. Remember, we can do all of the other things that we want to do in paid for advertising and in normal. This is about the customers the data we've got, but we're not using. So he's recognized that he's got an audience that he's not stayed in touch with. So that was what the subject was contained around. Whether he deals with a deal or not, that's up to him. It's how you reach out.
Yeah.
You know, he's wanting to know how he reaches out, what words should he use, how does he do it? And I think that's where he could really foul it up, or he could just, people don't, you know, people know that we all mess up, you know. Kelly, you had a point.
Yeah, it's a couple of things. So just building on what Zoisa said about, you know, people haven't been in for a while, or, you know, with lockdown, and you could have what's your new normal, because everyone keeps using this word new normal, and then you can explain, sorry, you haven't been in touch, and, you know, COVID's been a strange time, and then go into the description of what you're doing, and as you say, some of the ideas that have been mentioned. But Ewan also was saying to use post, if he's got the postal addresses for those people, it might be an option to cut through that way, because we're not obviously receiving an awful lot at the moment. Might just get more awareness, and again, same sort of line theme, apology, what's the new normal,
the same,
pictures.
I would do both, because at the moment post is if you look at what's coming through, certainly there's very little coming through on my letterbox, and it gets a lot of cut through. Having a postal message that's the same may be an option to do it, especially if his demographic is slightly older.
The average hairdresser won't have postal addresses, I don't think, but it doesn't say you don't have. I mean, this isn't about hairdressing, it's about your contacts you've not stayed in touch with. And
you could do the sorry.
Yeah, go on, Joe.
You could do the personalised chocolates or something like that to go through the post.
Yeah, Yeah.
Sorry.
Don't melt. There's lots of things you do. And by the way, although we've talked digital post, we've always done, whenever we've launched anything in B&I, one of the strategies when we came to launch was personal invites. They had to be done in a plain white envelope, no adverts on, and they had to be handwritten. You get a handwritten envelope in amongst your mail, that's the first one you're going to open, for definite. And, too many people miss out on this. So we're at the hour, and I think what we want to do is that, let me go back onto this. Let me go screen, because I've got a little. So we've created. So although we've had some great marketing ideas there, and I think that Kevin will appreciate that. I think what we've at least covered about the importance of reaching out to people you have on the database. We've covered the importance of traffic. It's all very well, you've got the attention, you want to deliver some value, and you want to deliver, you want to make a sale. So in between that, you're going to get some engagement, build a relationship. But it's very important that to get the attention, who are we going to get the attention of, and how do we get it? And what we've covered is 3 ways in which you can get 3 different styles, or 3 different approach, 3 different types of traffic. Delighted to say that next week we're going to be talking about specifically how we do it through pay-per-click. In other words, paid for. If we can get in front of an audience, and I believe you can do it for a lot less money than you imagine, certainly a lot less money than advertising in local newspapers. And the benefit of that is, if you know the value of a customer and you know what you're prepared to get that customer, and you've got sufficient profit in there, bearing in mind that you're going to keep your customer long term, then it really is a strategy worth looking at. So I know Kelly has offered to share her expertise. I think I said traffic per pay-per-click. I'm not sure whether that was exactly what she said, but is that right?
Yeah.
I think that's going to be very valuable, and I'm looking forward to that for next week. So back on to everybody again. We just say cheerio, and if there's anything you've got from it or whatever, then I'd be delighted to hear from you. So let's start with Mark, because I appreciate you still being here, Mark. I know you've normally got somewhere to rush off to, but Mark, did you get anything from today? Anything resonated?
Yeah, lots of things have sunk in. I've been writing a few things down, just things I'm going to be working on. So yeah, all really useful content.
Good, thank you. Zoisa?
Yeah, some good ideas, and just really, I guess, different ways of approaching things and food for thought.
I think what would be good is, I'm going to share this. It's not Damon, is it?
Will now be recorded.
I've not touched the thing. Whoever's just come on, mind you, they haven't got the speaker on. So anyway, thank you. It's always a good idea, if you've got the time to, you've taken your notes, then I would look back, and it's not about just seeing something out there. It's internalizing it. If I want to reach a bigger audience, what amongst this am I not doing, or could I be doing? And by all means, you can reach out, I'm sure, to myself or anybody else on the group, to talk through what you're trying to do. Elaine, what about you?
Sorry, I think it's me that's turned up twice. Can you get rid of the black one for me? I can't get rid of myself.
Two for the price of one. That's great value.
Sorry, I'm struggling. I'm gonna dip out because
you've obviously got 2 machines. You're multitasking. Joe.
Yeah, some really interesting content. I think a lot of it is reminders, because you should be doing it. It's to the kick up the arse you need, and really looking forward to Kelly's slot next week.
Good. Rod?
I love Joe's technical expression, a kick up the arse. I do like that. And I often get
too much though, Rod.
My normal kick up the arse is by about a 75-year-old on the bloody market. but I quite enjoy it. I think the thing is that business needs to be fun as well. We need to enjoy what we're doing. We know we need to do all these things, but we've got to build it into our lifestyle as well. And I'm always saying to my children, and I have 10 children, by the way, I always say to my children, you know, don't find a job that you're really going to love. If you don't love your job, forget about the money. It's going to be irrelevant, you know. And I think that's the same with us in business. I mean, I've put a 9-point list in front of me, and I know I do most of them, but and I think sometimes business people don't start with the exit, they start with the start. And you've got to think about the exit as well as the start. And the sandwich in the middle, you've got to enjoy it. No point buying a prawn sandwich if you only like fish, you know, or
right.
you know, meat or something. I don't know.
Now I'm totally confused. What I'd like you to do for next week, Rod, is those stats you showed me of the of where you launched the new product, and you had stats of how many views, etc. That could be useful in Kelly's session. But I'm going to end with Kelly and Ewan. Any last thoughts and anything we should prepare for next week?
Actually, I'm going to be doing the session because it's my area.
Right.
So you'll have to listen to my boring voice, unfortunately. But Rod, actually, yes, it would be very helpful, because one of the things I will cover is with pay-per-click. I've had a lot of times where people will come to me and say it doesn't work. Part of what I will cover will be setting expectations.
And the mathematics.
Yeah,
and
I'll get some screenshots or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Because for me, it's about setting the expectations and the mathematics behind it, as much as the targeting, which describes the success or otherwise of your pay-per-click journey.
Right.
And I can actually give them a sheet to put their own into a formula that you can put your own.
Yeah, we've got a formalized sheet that we use that allow people to forecast what they might expect.
That's brilliant. Is anybody else, by the way, out of curiosity, using any form of paid advertising digitally? No. So I think it could be. It certainly could be. I know it's going to be a fascinating subject, because if suddenly we're open up to some way of doing these things, it could help us accelerate the business.
Yeah, and I'm doing it in a way, as I say, where you can set your expectations so that you don't just send money down a big hole, which is possible to do.
Yeah. Good. Thanks everybody. Thanks to everybody. It's nice to see the sunshine. I'm meeting Ross Young at Bishop's Eye for a coffee at 10:30. So if you're in the city, just say hello. If not, have a great week ahead. Let's hope the weather stays fine, and see you all soon. All the best.
Thanks, Paul.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye.